Captain Lee Miho stared at the warning lights flashing across every screen on the bridge. Something was very wrong. The ship shook violently as waves of strange energy pulled them forward into the unknown. "Captain, we're losing control," shouted Park Jae-woo from her station. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, but nothing responded. "The navigation system is completely dead. We're being dragged into some kind of space anomaly." Miho grabbed his chair tightly as the ship tilted sideways. Behind him, the crew struggled to stay at their posts. Warning alarms screamed through the corridors of the Wanderer's Hope, a human exploration vessel that had been peacefully surveying deep space just minutes ago. "Everyone hold on." Miho yelled over the noise. The main view screen showed colors that shouldn't exist. Space itself seemed to be tearing apart in front of them. The ship's engines roared as they fought against an invisible force, but it was useless. They were being pulled through something impossible. Then everything went white. When Miho opened his eyes, the bridge was silent. The alarms had stopped. The shaking had ended. They were floating in normal space again, but something felt different. "Status report," he ordered, his voice calm despite his racing heart. Park Jae-woo checked her screens and her face went pale. "Sir, we have a big problem. We're not where we're supposed to be. The star patterns are completely wrong. Nothing matches our maps." She paused and looked up at him with wide eyes. "And Captain, I'm detecting thousands of artificial signals all around us. This entire region of space is filled with structures and ships. Someone lives here." Before anyone could respond, new alarms beeped urgently. "3 large ships just appeared," called out Choi Han-sol from the weapons station. "They came out of nowhere and they're heading straight for us." The view screen flickered and showed 3 massive vessels. Each one was at least 10 times larger than the Wanderer's Hope. Their hulls were covered with beautiful carvings and glowing decorations. They looked more like floating palaces than warships. "They're trying to communicate with us," Jae-woo said as her computer received a data stream. "They're sending us their language. The ship's computer is translating now." A face appeared on the screen. The alien was tall and humanoid but definitely not human. Its skin had a silver shine to it, and its large eyes looked like a dragonfly's eyes. It wore elegant robes covered in glowing symbols. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in a translated voice. "You have entered the territory of the Caldrith Empire without permission. This is impossible. No one can enter our space without using our gate system. Identify yourself immediately." Miho stood up straight and faced the screen. "I am Captain Lee Miho of the human ship Wanderer's Hope. We had an accident with our navigation system. We were pulled through a strange anomaly in space. We don't know where we are. We mean no harm. We just need help finding our way home." The alien's eyes widened in what might have been surprise. "Humans? We have no record of your species. Your ship design is unknown to us. You say you came through an anomaly but our sensors detected nothing. This should not be possible." "But it happened," Miho said firmly but politely. "We're explorers, not invaders. We're peaceful." The alien turned away and spoke with others who weren't visible on the screen. Their language sounded musical even without translation. Finally the alien turned back. "I am Commander Velas. By order of our Grand Council, your ship will be escorted to Station Primus. You will come with us for questioning. This is not a request." Miho glanced at Han-sol, who shook his head slightly. Fighting was impossible. They were outnumbered and outgunned in completely unknown territory. "We'll cooperate, Commander Velas," Miho said. "But I want your word that my crew will be treated fairly." "The Caldrith Empire is civilized," Velas replied. "You will be treated according to our laws. Though I must admit, I'm not sure which laws apply to a species that shouldn't exist in our space." The transmission ended and the 3 massive ships moved into formation around the Wanderer's Hope. Kim Doyen, the chief engineer, spoke over the intercom with a nervous laugh. "Captain, this is either the greatest discovery in human history or the biggest mistake we've ever made." "Probably both," Miho muttered quietly as he watched the alien ships guide them toward an unknown destination. The crew of the Wanderer's Hope had been looking for new discoveries in deep space. They had found one. But now they were trapped in a massive alien empire that had never heard of humans before. An empire that seemed very proud and very powerful. An empire that might not appreciate strangers appearing in their territory without warning. And somehow, looking at the massive but strangely inefficient ships around them, Captain Miho couldn't shake one strange feeling. These mighty aliens might not be as impressive as they thought they were. The real adventure was just beginning. The journey to the Caldrith capital world took 2 days. During that time, Captain Lee Miho and his crew studied everything they could about their unexpected hosts. What they discovered was both fascinating and puzzling. When they finally arrived at Caldros Prime, the sight took everyone's breath away. The planet was surrounded by enormous space stations that glittered like jewels. Thousands of ships moved in perfectly organized patterns. Everything looked grand and magnificent. "It's beautiful," whispered Yoon Samin, staring at the view screen. "It's also incredibly inefficient," muttered Kim Doyen, checking his instruments. "Those stations are using 3 times more power than they need. And their traffic control system is so complicated that it wastes hours of travel time. Why would anyone design things this way?" They were escorted to the Grand Imperial Palace, a massive structure that floated in orbit above the planet. Inside, everything was even more elaborate. The walls were covered in gold and precious stones. Water fountains floated in midair using some kind of gravity technology. Servants in fancy robes hurried through corridors that twisted and turned for no apparent reason. "This place is more like a museum than a government building," Park Jae-woo whispered to Miho as they walked. They were brought into an enormous throne room. Hundreds of Caldrith officials stood in rows, all wearing colorful robes. At the far end, sitting on a throne that seemed to be made of pure light, was the Emperor himself. He was ancient, with deep purple skin and robes that sparkled with thousands of tiny lights. "Humans," the Emperor's voice boomed across the hall. "You stand before the throne of the Caldrith Empire, the greatest civilization in the known galaxy. For 10,000 years, we have brought order and culture to the stars. You should feel honored to be in our presence." Miho stepped forward and bowed politely but not too deeply. "Your Majesty, we're grateful for your hospitality. We're explorers from a distant part of space. We'd like to learn about your empire and hopefully find a way back to our home." The Emperor seemed to expect Miho to say more. When he didn't, a look of confusion crossed the Emperor's face. "That is all you have to say?" the Emperor asked. "Most species beg for the privilege of joining our empire. They offer us gifts and pledges of loyalty." "With respect, Your Majesty," Miho said calmly, "we're not looking to join anyone's empire. We're independent. We just want to go home." Shocked whispers filled the throne room. Several officials looked offended. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Independent?" he repeated slowly. "You dare to refuse the honor of Imperial membership?" "We're not refusing anything," Miho explained. "We're simply stating facts. Our people value their freedom. I'm sure you can understand that." Before the Emperor could respond, Ambassador Theron stepped forward. "Your Majesty, perhaps the humans don't understand the greatness they're witnessing. They come from a primitive region of space. We should show them our technological superiority. Once they see what we've achieved, they'll understand their proper place." The Emperor nodded. "Yes, we shall demonstrate our power. Captain Miho, tomorrow you will witness a display of Caldrith military might. Prepare to be amazed." That night, back on the Wanderer's Hope, Kim Doyen couldn't stop laughing. "They think we're primitive," he said, wiping tears from his eyes. "Captain, I've been analyzing their systems all day. Their technology is at least 200 years behind ours in most areas. Their ships are huge but slow. Their weapons are powerful but take forever to charge. Their computers process information at speeds we abandoned decades ago. But they don't know that," Miho warned. "And we need to be careful. Pride can be dangerous. If we embarrass them, they might become hostile." "Too late for that," said Choi Han-sol, looking at his data pad. "The Emperor just announced that tomorrow they're going to hold war games. They want us to participate. It's supposed to show us how outmatched we are." Miho sighed. Of course they did. The next day, the Caldrith military put on an impressive show. 50 warships assembled in formation above the planet. Each ship was massive, covered in weapons and armor. Flags and banners flew from their hulls. Military music played over open communication channels. "Behold the might of the Imperial fleet," announced a Caldrith admiral proudly. "These vessels have protected our empire for millennia. Each one is a masterpiece of engineering and art." Kim Doyen studied the ships carefully and then spoke quietly to Miho. "Captain, those ships are beautiful but they're designed terribly. They're too big to maneuver quickly. Their weapons are positioned in ways that leave huge blind spots. And their shields are strong but consume so much power that they can barely move and shield at the same time." "Could we beat them?" Miho asked quietly. "In a fair fight? Easily. One of our ships could probably take on 10 of theirs." The admiral's voice interrupted them. "Captain Miho, to demonstrate our superiority, we challenge your vessel to a simulation battle. Our 50 ships against your one small explorer. Don't worry, it's only a simulation. No actual weapons will be fired. but it will show you the difference between Caldrith power and whatever you have. The crowd of Caldrith officials watching from the palace began to laugh. They clearly thought this would be entertaining to watch the humans lose badly. Miho looked at his crew. Park Jae-woo was grinning. Choi Han-sol was checking his weapons systems eagerly. Kim Do-yeon gave him a thumbs up. "We accept your challenge, Admiral," Miho said. The Caldrith officials cheered and clapped. The Emperor smiled from his throne. They were all so confident. "This is going to be interesting," Yoon Samin said quietly. "Very interesting," Miho agreed, a slight smile on his face. The Wanderer's hope might have been small and simple compared to the Grand Caldrith warships. But humans had learned long ago that in a fight, what mattered wasn't how impressive you looked. What mattered was how well you could adapt, think, and move. Tomorrow, the Caldrith Empire was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The morning of the War Games arrived with great ceremony. Millions of Caldrith citizens across the Empire tuned in to watch what they expected to be an easy victory. Betting networks gave the humans 1,000 to 1 odds. Nobody thought the small human ship had any chance against 50 mighty Imperial warships. On the bridge of the Wanderer's Hope, Captain Lee Miho sat calmly in his chair while his crew prepared for battle. The mood was relaxed, almost casual. "All systems ready, Captain," reported Park Jae-woo from the helm. "I've plotted 17 different escape routes and programmed evasive patterns into the computer." "Weapons are charged," added Choi Han-sol. "Though in a simulation we're only going to be marking hits, not actually destroying anything. Remember," Miho told his crew, "we're not trying to humiliate them. We're just defending ourselves. Keep it professional." Kim Do-yeon chuckled from engineering. "Captain, just defending ourselves is going to be humiliating enough for them." The Caldrith fleet assembled in a standard formation. All 50 ships lined up in neat rows, their massive hulls gleaming in the sunlight. They looked powerful and unstoppable. Ceremonial music played over the communication channels as admirals gave speeches about imperial glory. "They're really taking their time with this show," Park Jae-woo observed. "We've been waiting 20 minutes and they haven't even finished getting into position." "Let them have their moment," Miho said quietly. Finally, the Caldrith Admiral's voice came through. "Human vessel, the war games will now begin. You have 30 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate our superiority. This is your last chance to admit defeat with dignity." Miho pressed the communication button. "Thank you for the offer, Admiral, but we'll take our chances. Whenever you're ready." The Admiral laughed. "As you wish. All ships engage the human vessel. Show them the power of the Empire." The 50 Caldrith warships began moving forward in their perfect formation. They advanced slowly and majestically, maintaining their neat rows like a parade. "They're not breaking formation," Han-sol said with surprise. "They're just coming straight at us." "Then let's not be where they expect us," Miho ordered. Jae-woo pattern Delta 7. The Wanderer's Hope suddenly accelerated and dove beneath the Caldrith formation. The human ship moved so fast that the Caldrith sensors barely tracked it. Before the Imperial ships could react, the Wanderer's Hope was behind them. "Marking hits on ships 12 through 17, Han-sol reported calmly as he tagged 6 Caldrith vessels with simulated weapons fire. "Their rear shields are incredibly weak." The Caldrith formation began to turn, but their ships were so large and moved so slowly that it took almost a minute. By that time, the Wanderer's Hope had already circled around to their flank. 8 more ships marked," Han-sol said. "This is almost too easy." "Captain," Kim Do-yeon's voice came from engineering, "I'm detecting something interesting. Their communication system is really old technology. I think I can." "Yes, got it. I'm now listening to all their command frequencies." "Can you disrupt them?" Miho asked. "Better than that. I can make them think they're receiving orders from their own admiral." "Want me to cause some confusion?" "Do it," Miho approved. Suddenly, the Caldrith fleet began moving in different directions. Some ships turned left while others turned right. 2 ships nearly collided with each other. The perfect formation fell apart into chaos. "What's happening?" The admiral's angry voice shouted over the communication channel. "All ships maintain formation." "Who gave those orders?" "That would be me," Do-yeon said cheerfully from his station. "Sorry, not sorry." The Wanderer's Hope darted between the confused Caldrith ships like a small fish swimming through a school of whales. Every few seconds, Han-sol marked another target. The human ship was so fast and maneuverable that the Caldrith weapons couldn't track it properly. "Their targeting systems are terrible," Han-sol reported. "They're designed for hitting slow-moving targets at long range. They can't handle something that moves like us." 30 minutes into the battle, The Wanderer's Hope had successfully marked 40 of the 50 Cauldron ships as destroyed. The remaining 10 ships tried to surround the human vessel, but Park Jae-woo piloted circles around them. "This isn't a battle," she said with a grin. "This is a flying lesson." Finally, after 2 hours, the Cauldron Admiral's voice came through, sounding exhausted and defeated. "Cease fire. The simulation is over. The humans have won." Silence fell across the communication channels. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor sat frozen on his throne, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. The Cauldron officials stared at their screens in shock. Across the Empire, millions of citizens watched in stunned disbelief. One small human ship had defeated 50 Imperial warships without taking a single hit. "Good work, everyone," Miho said calmly to his crew. "Let's dock and see what happens next." "Captain," Yoon Saman said quietly, "I think we just made a lot of people very angry." "Or very interested," Miho replied, watching as the Cauldron ships slowly limped back to their stations. That night, something unexpected happened. Young Cauldron officers began secretly sending messages to the Wanderer's Hope. They wanted to know how the humans had won. They wanted to learn new tactics. They wanted to understand how a smaller, simpler ship had embarrassed the pride of the Imperial fleet. But more importantly, Princess Arisu, the Emperor's daughter, requested a private meeting with Captain Miho. Unlike her father, she wasn't angry about the defeat. She was fascinated. "Captain," she said when they met, "you've shown us something important today. Our empire has become lazy and comfortable. We've stopped improving because we thought we were already perfect. But you've proven we were wrong." "We didn't mean to embarrass anyone," Miho said honestly. "I know," Arisu replied with a slight smile. "But sometimes embarrassment is the first step toward growth. Some of us have been waiting for something to shake up the old ways. You might be exactly what the Empire needs." Before Miho could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts filled every screen. "Unknown ships attacking Outer Rim colonies," a panicked voice announced. "Mass casualties reported. Imperial defenses are failing." Princess Arisu's face went pale. "The Ravagers. They're finally here." The emergency broadcast showed horrible scenes. 3 Cauldron colony worlds were under attack by ships that moved unlike anything Captain Lee Miho had ever seen. The attackers didn't fly in formations or follow predictable patterns. They swarmed like angry insects, appearing and disappearing randomly, striking fast and retreating before the Cauldron defenses could respond. "Who are the Ravagers?" Miho asked Princess Arisu as they watched the reports together. "A nightmare from beyond our borders," Arisu said quietly, her face tight with worry. "They appeared 50 years ago from unexplored space. They attack, steal resources and vanish. Our fleets can never catch them. Every few years they raid our outer colonies and we lose thousands of lives." On the screens, Cauldron warships tried to fight back, but it was like watching giants trying to swat flies. The Ravager ships were small and impossibly quick. They attacked in groups, overwhelming one target before moving to the next. "Your ships can't handle that kind of combat," Kim Doyen observed, studying the battle footage. "They're designed for slow, powerful engagements. The Ravagers are using speed and chaos. It's the exact opposite of Cauldron tactics." The Emperor's voice boomed across the palace communication system. "All military commanders report to the war room immediately. This attack must be stopped." Princess Arisu looked at Miho with desperate eyes. "Captain, I know we just met. I know you owe us nothing. But thousands of innocent people are dying. Will you help us?" Miho didn't hesitate. "Of course. Let's go." In the war room, Cauldron admirals argued loudly about strategy while the Emperor sat silent and grim. Maps showed the Ravager attack spreading to more colonies. The Imperial fleet was responding, but too slowly. "We need to send all available ships," one admiral shouted. "No, we need to defend the capital," another argued. "Silence." The Emperor's voice cut through the chaos. His eyes fell on Miho. "Human, you defeated our best ships in combat. Do you have any suggestions?" Every Cauldron in the room turned to stare at Miho. Many looked angry that the Emperor would ask an outsider for help. Others looked hopeful. Miho stepped forward and studied the tactical maps. "May I see recordings of previous Ravager attacks?" Within minutes, Kim Doyen and Park Jae-woo had analyzed dozens of battle recordings. They worked quickly while the Cauldron officers watched with growing interest. "I see patterns," Doyen announced. "The Ravagers aren't just attacking randomly. Look here and here. They always strike at the same weak points in your defenses. They target power stations first, then communication arrays, Then they go after civilian areas while your ships are confused and disorganized. They've studied you, Miho added. They know exactly how you fight and they've designed their tactics to exploit your weaknesses. Your ships are strong but slow. Your formations are predictable. You rely on heavy shields and powerful weapons, but the Ravagers never stay still long enough for those advantages to matter. Then what do we do? Demanded the Emperor. You need to fight them the way they fight, Miho said. With speed, unpredictability, and coordination. But your current ships can't do that. Then we're doomed, an admiral said bitterly. Not necessarily, Park Jaiwu spoke up. What if we modify some of your smaller ships? Strip away the unnecessary decorative elements, upgrade the engines, improve the targeting computers. Make them faster and more maneuverable. Modify Imperial ships? An admiral looked horrified. That would take months. Or, Princess Arisu said suddenly, we could learn from the humans now and adapt our tactics immediately. Captain Miho, could you train some of our pilots? In a few hours? Miho shook his head. No. But I could lead a mixed force. Some of your ships following my commands, coordinating with the Wanderer's hope. We won't have your numbers but we'll have surprise on our side. The Emperor stood up slowly. Pride warred with desperation on his ancient face. Finally, desperation won. Do it, he ordered. Captain Miho, I'm giving you temporary command of a battle group. Princess Arisu will serve as your liaison with Imperial forces. Save our people. Within the hour, Miho found himself commanding 20 Caldrith ships plus the Wanderer's hope. The Caldrith crews were uncertain about taking orders from an alien, but Princess Arisu's presence helped. She had quickly earned respect by showing she was willing to learn rather than simply command. They jumped to the nearest colony under attack. When they arrived, the scene was chaos. Hundreds of Ravager ships swarmed around the colony's orbital stations. Caldrith defense ships fired wildly, hitting nothing. All ships, this is Captain Miho, he said over the command channel. Forget everything you know about formation flying. We're going to split into small groups. Move fast, strike hard, and keep moving. Don't try to destroy them all at once. Pick targets, mark them, and rotate out. Understood. Understood, came Princess Arisu's voice from her command ship. Imperial forces, follow the humans' lead. This is not a request. The battle began. Instead of forming up in neat lines, Miho's ships darted in from multiple directions. They used the same chaos tactics the Ravagers employed. When Ravager ships swarmed toward one group, another group would hit them from behind. It's working. Choi Han Sol reported excitedly. The Ravagers don't know how to respond when we fight like them. For the first time in 50 years, the Caldrith were winning against the Ravagers. Ship after ship fell to the coordinated strikes. The remaining Ravagers began to retreat. But then something unexpected happened. One large Ravager ship didn't run. Instead, it broadcast a message. Please stop. The voice was desperate, almost human. We don't want to fight. We're refugees. We're just trying to survive. Miho held up his hand. Cease fire. Everyone hold position. What are you doing? An admiral demanded over the comm. Destroy them while we have the chance. Not until we understand what's happening, Miho replied firmly. He opened a channel to the Ravager ship. This is Captain Lee Miho. Explain yourself. Why are you attacking these colonies if you're refugees? There was a long pause. Then the Ravager voice returned, tired and sad. Our home galaxy is dying. We've been running for generations. We need resources, places to live. Your empire has so much and you refuse to share. We raid because we have no choice. Our children are starving. The communication channels filled with angry Caldrith voices demanding the Ravagers be destroyed. But Miho looked at Princess Arisu, and he saw something in her eyes. Understanding. Compassion. There has to be another way, she said quietly. There is, Miho replied. But it's going to require both sides to do something very difficult. They're going to have to trust each other. The next 3 days were the hardest of Captain Lee Miho's life. Convincing two groups who had been enemies for 50 years to sit down and talk was nearly impossible. The Caldrith wanted revenge. The Ravagers were desperate and afraid. Neither side trusted the other. But slowly, with Princess Arisu's help and a lot of patience, they made progress. The Ravagers' leader, a tired old being named Kelmar, told them the truth. His people had fled a dying galaxy where stars were burning out. They had traveled for generations looking for a new home. When they found the Caldrith Empire, they had asked for help. But the Empire had refused, calling them beggars and ordering them to leave. We didn't want to become raiders, Kelmar said sadly during the negotiations. But what choice did we have? Our children were dying. We took what we needed to survive. The Emperor sat across from Kelmar, his face hard. You killed thousands of my people. You destroyed colonies. And now you ask for forgiveness. I ask for understanding, Kelmar replied. Not forgiveness. What we did was terrible. But wouldn't you do the same to save your children? The room fell silent. Even the angry Caldrith admirals couldn't answer that question easily. Miho stood up and addressed both sides. Fighting isn't solving anything. The Ravagers need resources and places to live. The Caldrith Empire has hundreds of uninhabited star systems. Systems with planets that nobody is using. Why not share them? Give away Imperial territory to raiders? An admiral sputtered. Impossible. Is it? Princess Arisu asked quietly. Father, we have so much space that we don't even use. Entire systems sit empty because we haven't had the population to settle them. What if instead of enemies, the Ravagers became neighbors? Allies even? The Emperor looked at his daughter with something like surprise. You would trust them after what they've done? I would give them a chance to prove they can be trusted, Arisu replied. The humans did the same for us. They could have humiliated us after the war games. Instead, they helped us when the Ravagers attacked. They showed us mercy and cooperation are stronger than pride and conflict. Kim Doyen leaned over to whisper to Miho. Did we really teach them that, or are they just figuring it out on their own? Does it matter? Miho whispered back with a small smile. After hours of negotiation, an agreement was reached. The Caldrith Empire would grant the Ravagers 3 uninhabited star systems to colonize. In return, the Ravagers would share their advanced engine technology and help defend Imperial space from external threats. Both sides would work together to build something new. We'll call it the Galactic Cooperative Council, Princess Arisu announced. A place where different species work together as equals. Not an empire with subjects, but a community with partners. The Emperor looked old and tired, but he nodded slowly. Perhaps it's time for the Empire to evolve. 10,000 years is a long time to stay the same. The agreement was signed with great ceremony. For the first time in 50 years, Caldrith and Ravagers stood side by side without fighting. It wasn't perfect. Many on both sides were still angry and suspicious. But it was a start. 3 weeks later, the Wanderers' Hope prepared to leave. The Caldrith had finally helped them chart a route back to human space. Princess Arisu came to say goodbye to Miho and his crew. You changed everything, she told him on the bridge. You showed us that being strong doesn't mean refusing to change. It means being brave enough to admit when you're wrong and wise enough to learn from others. You did that yourselves, Miho replied honestly. We just gave you a little push. Arisu smiled. A little push that started a revolution. My father is stepping down next month. I'll become Empress. The first thing I'm going to do is open our borders to other species. No more isolation. No more pretending we're superior to everyone else. That's a big change, Park Jaiwa said. Will your people accept it? Some will, some won't, Arisu admitted. But change is necessary. The galaxy is bigger than we thought and more wonderful. The humans proved that. If one species we never knew existed could teach us so much, imagine what we could learn from dozens of others. Kim Doyen handed her a data chip. This contains specifications for upgrading your ships. Make them faster, more efficient. And maybe add less decoration and more function. Arisu laughed. We do like our decorations, don't we? But yes, efficiency is important too. We're learning. As the Wanderer's Hope prepared to depart, Choi Han-sol checked his sensors. Captain, we're receiving transmission requests from over 30 different star systems. Species we've never heard of. They all want to meet us. Word travels fast, Yoon Saman observed. Miho looked at the communications list and shook his head with amazement. We came out here looking for new discoveries. We definitely found them. Should we answer them? Jaiwo asked. Not yet, Miho decided. Let's go home first. Report what we found. Then humanity can decide together how we want to approach this new galactic community. The Wanderer's Hope pulled away from the station and pointed toward home. Behind them, the Caldrith Empire was already changing. Ships were being redesigned. Old laws were being rewritten. Former enemies were becoming friends. You know what's funny? Kim Doyen said as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. We literally stumbled into their space by accident. Complete accident. And we ended up changing their entire civilization. That's humans for you, Kang Yunji said with a grin. We don't mean to cause trouble. We just show up and be ourselves and somehow everything changes. Miho settled back in his command chair and watched the stars streak past. They had left human space as simple explorers. They were returning as ambassadors to a galaxy full of life they never knew existed. Somewhere out there, dozens of alien civilizations were waiting to meet humanity. Some would be friendly. Some might be hostile. Some would be strange beyond imagination. But after accidentally wandering into a 10,000-year-old empire and teaching them humility without even trying, Miho felt ready for anything. "Set course for home," he ordered. "And someone remind me to file the most interesting mission report in human history." As the ship vanished into the darkness between stars, Princess Arisu watched from her command center. She smiled, thinking about the future. A future where different species worked together. Where pride gave way to cooperation. Where a small ship full of unimpressed humans had shown an ancient empire that being civilized meant being willing to learn from anyone, no matter how small or unexpected they might be. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Arisu thought, was exactly how it should be.